The week between January 16th and January 23rd, 1909 was not just another week in the state of New Jersey in the United States. Those 7 days were enough for what happened at that time of the year in that part of the map to be remembered from then on as the Devil's Week.
It all started with a report from a group of people.
These individuals claimed that a huge creature had attacked the tram they were traveling on. At first, no one gave much credence to what was being said, even though it was quite striking. That many men and women who had no connection to each other told the same story. Despite the little impact the case had, it was impossible not to connect the dots. When, the next day, a social club in Camden ended up besieged by a mysterious being that no one could see clearly, but everyone described as monstrous. To the civilians' testimony was added that of the police, who had opened fire on the aforementioned creature. Even though they were convinced that the bullets had hit the target, not only did they not bring it down, but they also found no traces of blood or anything else that would indicate the presence of a wound. After that, things got out of control. Reports started coming in by the dozens. The police stations, firefighters, and even the local pest control workers were receiving visits. The most cautious ones spoke with the hunters, who soon made themselves available to the town. The schools closed just in case. The workers preferred not to go to the factories. They wanted to stay in their homes to defend their families from that enigmatic threat that roamed in the darkness. As if the situation lacked drama, a rumor began to fill everything. A local zoo offered a substantial reward to anyone who could capture the enormous creature. In this way, it became common to hear the sound of rifles being loaded as night fell. There were injured people, disputes, and some frauds. Someone even went so far as to put fake wings on a kangaroo in an attempt to claim the offered reward. It was 7 long days and 7 long nights, after which normality returned, at least for a while. After that, things got much stranger. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Located between New York City and Philadelphia, New Jersey is the most densely populated state. And that's even though 22% of its total area belongs to the Pine Barrens, a region full of tall trees and murky waters. Those who visit New Jersey are unaware of those coordinates, where time seems to have stopped, where the mist never fully clears, and where the fallen leaves crunch, as if they still remembered things that men have already forgotten. We're talking about a vast, tangled, harsh forest full of wild pines and nameless swamps, a remote wasteland that was not made for human comfort. And it is there, among twisted branches and half-buried caves, where one of the oldest and most disturbing myths in the United States was born. We're talking about a beast with gigantic leathery wings, a horse's head, glowing red eyes, and sharp claws that has been stalking the residents for almost 300 years. How did this story begin? Why do some people blame a prominent United States politician for creating this myth? What were the most significant sightings collected in recent years? What do the most skeptical people say about it? Welcome to the dark and curious story of the Jersey Devil. Before we continue, I want to let you know in case YouTube isn't notifying you. If you're not getting notifications, you already know you have to click the bell again. Turn on notifications, unsubscribe, and subscribe again. Comment, do all those things, because YouTube often doesn't notify. It really doesn't notify much. It's really like it's left up to chance. But if you like the topic of cryptozoology and mythical animals and all that, on this channel we already have several videos uploaded about Mothman, Bigfoot, we also have Thunderbird, and well, a bunch more that are out there. So, if you're interested in these topics, I'll leave the recommendations at the end. And if not, just look for them, go to my channel, check out the video section, and start scrolling down. You'll see them there. Also, if you want us to keep talking about these creatures, write cryptids in the comments. If there are more than 1,000 people writing cryptids, we'll make a new report about another mythical animal. I don't know which one it could be. You can also leave your suggestions down below. We'll be reading everything you suggest. Let's get started. The 13th Son. As we already mentioned, it's no coincidence that this creature appeared in the environment where it did. The first settlers who dared to settle on the edges of the Pine Barrens knew that there was something strange about that forest. It wasn't just how difficult it was to farm there, nor the persistent poverty that surrounded those who lived among its trees, it was something else. Something in the air, in the way the branches moved, even when there was no wind. That's why it surprises us that the outcast chose this place as a refuge. Social exiles, war deserters, madmen, criminals, fugitives, all of them mixed together and formed forgotten communities, distant from the outside world. It was in the midst of that constant tension between man and the forest where the darkest story of the region was born. Or so it's believed, because soon we'll discover that there isn't just one genesis for this nightmare. The most widespread story says that evil settled in that place in the year 1735. That year, a woman who already had 12 children found out she was pregnant again. The woman in question was named Deborah Leeds. Her family, friends, and neighbors heard her when, with a sigh of resignation, she said that her next child would be the devil. Although many assumed she said it out of exhaustion from taking care of such a large family, others took those words as a sort of prophecy. That's why the most superstitious were not surprised when, on the night of the new birth, a storm broke out like they had never seen before. There were lightning strikes that caused fires, thunder that sounded like roars, and a hurricane wind that blew open windows and slammed doors as if it were an angry ghost. In this context, and after heart-wrenching screams of pain, Deborah gave birth. At first, the newborn appeared to be a normal child. But then, in full view of the other women in the room acting as assistants, his body began to change shape. Suddenly he writhed, his skin split, his fingers stretched, and strange lumps began to sprout from his back. When someone tried to touch him, the monstrous child let out a high-pitched scream, half neigh, half wail. Then, before anyone could stop him, he slipped out of where they had put him and after killing the midwife, escaped by climbing up the chimney. They say he was lost after the intense storm, that he went deep into the forest and made his lair there. In the years to come, a warning became common among the people of the area. Be careful about going into the Jersey woods, because the Jersey Devil lives in there. That's a story that many people know. Over time, some details have changed. For example, it's not very clear who Deborah was. Some say that the woman was a witch and that she had actually summoned the devil to father her child. Fully aware of what she was causing, others say that the devil seduced her or abused her. A third group claims that, in reality, Deborah was not a witch, nor had she been a victim of the Lord of the Underworld. This group believes that behind the whole matter, there is a seed tied to the politics of the time. Without going any further, this theory supports the idea that the Jersey Devil would not be the son of the devil, but of Benjamin Franklin, and the devil. Beyond what one chooses to believe, Deborah Leeds did exist. The Leeds family is documented in the records of the New Jersey colony, but instead of talking about Deborah, let's focus on her husband Daniel Leeds. Daniel Leeds, he was a controversial figure, and the first thing you need to know about him is that he was a Quaker. Quakers are members of a dissenting religious group within Christianity, also known as the Religious Society of Friends, which originated in England in the 17th century. They are characterized by their emphasis on equality, simplicity, pacifism, and non-adherence to church hierarchies. Leeds is said to have arrived in New Jersey in 1677, and it didn't take him long to settle in a community that shared his beliefs. Among other things, the man worked as a surveyor, and around 1690, he bought land on the South Atlantic coast. During those years, he got along well with those around him and was highly respected. At least until he started writing and publishing his almanacs, something that was common among people of a certain status. The almanac that Leeds showed to his neighbors included the movements of celestial bodies as well as astrological and mystical symbols. The presence of these details earned the man the anger of his contemporaries, who would eventually accuse him of distributing infamous symbols related to dark forces. Disillusioned by the treatment he received, Daniel satirized the other Quakers in a series of books, becoming the first individual established in the United States to carry out political attacks through publications. These accusations received a second counterattack, where Leeds was dubbed by his detractors as the Herald of Satan. Determined not to be intimidated, Leeds doubled down and supported the candidacy of a governor who was disliked by the majority. A simple conflict of beliefs had escalated into an unprecedented dispute. Although Daniel Leeds passed away in 1720, his almanac filled with symbols and supposedly blasphemous survived and continued to be published by his son Titan. At that time, another almanac began to compete with his, and it wasn't just any almanac, but Poor Richard's. The almanac belonged to none other than Benjamin Franklin, one of the proclaimed founding fathers of the United States. Eager to challenge his opponent, Franklin predicted in his almanac that Titan Leeds would die on October 17, 1733. When that date arrived and no calamity occurred, Titan called Franklin a liar at a public meeting. The other responded by laughing and saying that he believed the ghost of a dead man was trying to communicate with him. The fact that Daniel Leeds was compared to Satan and his son to a ghost, that was enough for things to get distorted and for the Leeds family to become inexorably linked to the occult and the demonic. Later on, the story underwent some more changes and the Leeds family became the bearers of a supposed curse. The surname became synonymous with secret pacts and impure practices. The Jersey Devil went from being a creature of the night to becoming a true symbol of sin and damnation. After the Revolution, the legend fell into oblivion until the early 20th century, and perhaps nothing more would have been known about it. If that had been the case, everything would have remained an old mystery. But then, a publicist from Philadelphia heard it and fell in love with the ambiguity of the story. Without hesitation, he began to repeat the story inside the Curiosity Museum he had set up. Sooner rather than later, he discovered that he wasn't the only one who found the story appealing. The story then began to spread by word of mouth, with renewed frenzy. But not only that, at some point words gave way to new experiences. And when no one believed it was possible anymore, the Jersey Devil began to be seen again. And the most unsettling thing was that the description everyone started giving of it was very similar. A winged creature with the head of a horse or a goat, claws, a tail, glowing eyes, and a hellish scream that paralyzes anyone who hears it. It was clear that this was not just any collective hallucination, but a consistent, persistent form, ready to move across generations. A horror that had come to stay. Terror becomes real. Some scholars of historical archives claim that in 1740, a clergyman was hired by high authorities in New Jersey to take care of pacifying the beast which kept terrorizing the area. It is believed that in that year, an exorcism was performed that drove the monster away for about 100 years. The most devout dismissed the political interpretation of the matter and believed that this was truly the reason for the demon's exile. After a reasonable amount of time had passed, the Jersey Devil had returned to his homeland hungry for revenge. For many years, the Jersey Devil was just a story to scare children. A warning for those who ventured too deep into the Pine Barrens. But with the resurgence of the myth, something changed. The testimonies multiplied, and the sightings stopped being vague stories and became something more precise. We're not talking about isolated popular superstitions. Farmers, woodcutters, mailmen, they all started reporting sightings of a winged creature. They saw it flying over fields, perched on barns, or crossing dirt roads at dusk. In 1840, attacks on farm animals were reported for the first time. That couldn't be explained. Chickens with their throats slit but not eaten, goats with impossible claw marks, horses that refused to enter the stables as if something invisible was waiting for them. At first, those who spoke of the devil were ridiculed, but the stories kept growing, and with them, the fear spread. According to the legend, during a visit to the Hanover Milk Works factory to inspect the cannonballs that were being forged, Commodore Stephen Decatur spotted a flying creature flapping its wings. He immediately shot at it. In vain, the being seemed immune to his attacks. It is claimed that Jose Bonaparte, Napoleon's older brother, spotted the Jersey Devil while hunting in Bordentown, New Jersey. However, what ultimately sealed this story as part of an important myth, a famous legend, was what became known as the Devil's Week. Something that happened in 1909 and is one of the most infamous events related to a cryptid. And that's how our story can go back to the beginning. That week, which is now part of the darkest folklore of the United States, began, as we said, on January 16th and ended on the 23rd. During that period, more than 100 sightings were reported in at least 6 different states. The creature was seen flying over Camden, Mercantville, Bristol, Philadelphia, Trenton, and even in areas in the north of Delaware. The newspapers of the time, such as the Philadelphia Evening Bulletin and the Trenton Times, covered the reports with alarming headlines and testimonies that seemed almost identical to each other. One of the most talked about cases was that of the Bristol Police Department, where two officers claimed to have fired at a winged being, with glowing eyes that screeched like someone condemned. Another witness was Mr. Nelson Evans from Gloucester, who discovered a 6-foot creature with a horse's head, membranous wings like a bat, and hind legs like those of a crane. He said the beast had stayed in front of his window for several minutes watching him. It just looked at him as if it knew something. That same Wednesday in Collinswood, a group of factory workers abandoned their posts out of panic. They said they had seen the devil perched on the roof. None of them wanted to go back until dawn. Businesses didn't dare open at night, and theater performances were cancelled. Some families even packed their things and left the state for a few days. The fear was real, palpable, and not just fueled by the press. The footprints found in parks or muddy areas were impossible to explain. They didn't match any known animal. The hunt for the devil became an obsession for some. Armed patrols were organized, improvised traps were set, and even rewards were offered. But the devil, if it was real, wouldn't let itself be caught. It was like a specter, a shadow that slipped between collective hysteria and individual terror. And like any good monster, it knew when to disappear. When paranoia reached its peak, when the streets were empty and the churches were full, the devil vanished. But something was left marked in history. From that moment on, the myth stopped being just a folktale. It had been stamped in the newspapers, in police reports, in the city archives. The Jersey Devil was now part of the real world. It might not have a scientific explanation, it might be the subject of ridicule or exaggeration, but it had left a scar that would never stop being seen. There were those who began to claim that there was something deeply disturbing in the way the creature manifested itself. A kind of intelligent pattern. They began to wonder if it was an apparition with a hidden purpose. What if the Jersey Devil wasn't an animal, but a message in itself? The answers to this question led to all kinds of speculation. Was it trying to warn about something? Was the Jersey Devil announcing future tragedies? The 20th century brought wars, unimaginable technological advances, the birth of the information age, the rise of scientific rationalism, and the idea that everything can be explained. This didn't stop the Jersey Devil from continuing to appear, as if it didn't depend on human beliefs to exist. The shadow in the century. As towns grew, dirt roads were paved, and television antennas began to emerge. On the rooftops of houses in New Jersey, the winged creature continued to fly over the skies of Pine Barrens, defying logic. Alleged remains matching the description of the Jersey Devil appeared in Greenwich in December of 1925. A local farmer had shot an unidentified animal while it was trying to steal his chickens. Later, he claimed that none of the 100 people who had seen the corpse had been able to identify what species it belonged to. When the body disappeared, everyone started blaming each other. The authorities blamed the farmer, and the farmer blamed the authorities. July 27, 1937. An unknown animal with red eyes was seen by residents in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. A reporter introduced the idea that it could be the Jersey Devil, and for weeks it was mentioned everywhere. In 1927, a wild man with a gorilla-like appearance was seen in southern New Jersey. In the same week, someone mentioned having seen the Jersey Devil in the same place. For just over a month, these two cryptids fought for public attention. There were even funny drawings made showing them fighting in the streets. People debated who would win if a fight of such magnitude were to take place. Some even placed bets. In 1951, a group of children from Gibbstown, New Jersey, claimed to have seen a monster that matched the appearance of the devil. In 1957, it is believed that someone found one of the beasts injured and dying in the forest. It would disappear before the person who found it could return with more witnesses. When the time came when people became obsessed with flying saucers, the Jersey Devil began to merge with that new trend. Some interpreted it as an extraterrestrial being, a survivor of a genetic experiment, or even as a dimensional cryptid, a creature that crossed portals from another reality. But for the people of South Jersey, it wasn't necessary to put modern labels on it. For them, the devil was the same as always, the one their grandparents described on cold nights. The one who appeared just before something bad happened. The one you could feel even if you couldn't see him. The one who could cause deformed births. During that decade, dozens of reports began to be collected by independent researchers, ufologists, and scholars of the paranormal. One of them, Ivan T. Sanderson, a Scottish zoologist and cryptozoologist, received several letters describing encounters with a winged being that descended upon cars parked on lonely roads. Witnesses said they felt an overwhelming presence, as if the air became dense, as if something was watching them from the treetops. Some drivers claimed to have seen a dark silhouette perched in the middle of the road, a figure that would then disappear in the blink of an eye. Already in the 1960s and 1970s, with the expansion of popular culture and the interest in regional monsters, the Jersey Devil became part of media folklore. Books, comics, and even songs about him began to circulate. But the strangest thing was that instead of diluting the legend, this kind of tension seemed to strengthen it. As if by naming him, by keeping him alive, the devil gained some kind of extra energy to keep manifesting, as if human fear was his fuel. One of the most well-documented cases from this time happened in 1972. A group of teenage hikers was camping in a remote area of Wharton State Forest, one of the deepest regions of the Pine Barrens. In the early morning hours, they were awakened by a piercing scream. When they came out of their tents, they saw broken branches, footprints in the mud, and something even more chilling. All their backpacks had been torn apart and were covered with some kind of saliva, not stolen, just ripped, as if someone wanted to warn them that they shouldn't be there. One of them, Mark Ryerson, never slept peacefully again. Years later, he would say in an interview that he could still feel that thing's breath on his neck whenever he closed his eyes. During the 80s and 90s, the Jersey Devil seemed to go into some kind of slumber, but the stories never stopped. With the arrival of the internet, paranormal forums were filled with stories about encounters with the creature. Some claimed to have seen it on the abandoned trails that crossed the woods. Others said their dogs would bark frantically at dark corners for hours, with no apparent reason. An anonymous user posted a series of blurry photos of what appeared to be a flying creature over Lake Atsion. But the resolution was so bad that no one could confirm anything. As always, the Jersey Devil seemed to be one step ahead of concrete evidence. And yet, it was still there, like a persistent echo from a distant time. As if Pine Barrens were not just a geographical place, but a threshold, a site where reason breaks down, where the laws of the world disappear, where it always seems like something is watching. There was a moment after so many reports when the Jersey Devil stopped being just a simple monster and became a symbol. A symbol of the incomprehensible, of the foreign, of that which we cannot categorize without it slipping through our fingers. And that's where the theories are born. Some look for logical answers, others delve into the arcane, the esoteric, the absolutely unverifiable. Let's start by getting to know the latter.
The believer's theories.
The most well-known hypothesis is the one that says the Jersey Devil is a cryptid, a zoological creature that hasn't been classified yet. In this context, the creature would be a real biological being, maybe a remnant of another. It was a mutated descendant of prehistoric species, an animal that has managed to avoid humans thanks to the vastness and darkness of the Pine Barrens. Some compare it to Boatman, the Mothman of Point Pleasant, because of its winged nature and its appearance linked to strange, even tragic events. Others connected with the Chupacabra because of its aggression toward livestock and its ability to move without leaving consistent traces. But everyone agrees that if it is a natural creature, then it's one that should never have survived until today. Beyond that, there are the paranormal theories. Those who believe that the devil is not flesh, nor blood, nor bone, but something much older, a kind of spiritual entity. There are those who claim that Pine Barrens has been a site of rituals, of occult practices, of gatherings that invoked invisible forces long before the Leeds colony existed. Along those lines, the devil would be the manifestation of an ancient curse, a dark energy bound to the very land, a guardian of forbidden secrets. Or even worse, a reminder that certain doors once opened never truly close. An even more sinister, but less widespread theory is that of the archetype. This theory suggests that the Jersey Devil is not real in the physical sense, but in the psychological one that it represents. A collective fear so deep, so ingrained, that it ended up taking shape. Basically, an entity generated by the human mind, nourished by attention, by belief, by centuries of obsession. In this view, the more the devil is talked about, the more he is drawn, described, feared, or worshipped, the stronger he becomes, the more present, the more tangible. Is it terror made flesh through the shared mind of a society that needs a monster to explain the inexplicable? And even though it sounds far-fetched, it's worth remembering that many ancient cultures already spoke of entities created by collective thought. Egypt, Tibet, even certain European esoteric groups. In all these stories, the constant is that entities born from fear never truly go away. The truth is, there isn't just one answer. It's likely that the Jersey Devil is all of those things at once. A group from New Jersey called the Devil Hunters dedicate their time to collecting reports, visiting historical sites, and going on nighttime hunting excursions, in order to find proof that the Jersey Devil does in fact exist. On the other hand, there are those who believe that the devil is a mistake, a misunderstanding, or simply a metaphor for matters just as tricky and complex.
The version of the skeptics.
Skeptics believe that the Jersey Devil is nothing more than a creative manifestation by English settlers. For his part, Jeff Branner, from the New Jersey Society for the Protection of Animals, believes that the Canadian crane is the basis for the stories of the Jersey Devil. Huge birds that get lost on their migratory route and end up alone and disoriented would thus be responsible for the waves of panic. The author and nature expert Tom Brown Jr. spent several seasons living in the wild territory of the Pine Barrens. In several of his stories, he made sure to recall the times when terrified hikers had mistaken him for the Jersey Devil. The reasons? The man used to cover his entire body with mud to repel mosquitoes. Other thinkers focus on the original story, the one we mentioned at the beginning, the one that spoke of a woman who gave birth to a cursed child. There are those who believe that the story may have been intended to warn women about the risks of having too many pregnancies. Right around that time, abortion was starting to be criminalized, so it's believed that women may have invented the Jersey Devil to be able to stop their husbands. They were constantly abused and were often seen merely as a means to expand their clan. It could be that the Jersey Devil was the way a group of unprotected women found to confront oppression. From whatever era, the Jersey Devil has become a cultural icon in the state, inspiring several organizations and groups to use the nickname. In professional hockey, the Jersey Devils of the Eastern Hockey League played from 1964 to 1973. When the Colorado Rockies of the National Hockey League moved to New Jersey in 1982, a popular poll voted to change the team's name to the New Jersey Devils. Even the X-Files would dedicate an episode to it. It's easy to think that legends disappear over time as we advance in our understanding of the world, that science, reason, and progress put an end to the unexplainable. But the Jersey Devil, like so many other myths, defies this belief. Its presence has evolved, adapted to new times, infiltrated modern narratives, and become part of the collective imagination. Like a virus that cannot be eradicated. As we see again, the mythology of the Jersey Devil, far from being a relic of the past, has found a new platform to persist in the digital age. Social media has given new life to the myth. Paranormal forums and websites dedicated to cryptozoology continue to fuel the mystery with current accounts of encounters with the creature. This has made the figure of the Jersey Devil a recurring topic in online discussions. Could it be real? A mistake in human perception? A manifestation of something much deeper and more primal? Could it be a being summoned hundreds of years ago in an occult session? One way or another, the Jersey Devil still has a strong presence in the state where it was born. Even those who refuse to believe in it know that it's better not to venture at night into the wildest and most desolate landscapes of the area. What awaits us lurking deep in the forests, in the coldest mountains, or at the bottom of the seas and oceans? And more importantly, how many other Jersey Devils are there that we still have no idea about? How long will they remain in the shadows? Will these creatures eventually feel threatened sooner or later? Will they ever come out of hiding to show us that Not even in our worst nightmares had we prepared for something so terrible. We don't know. For now, it's best for us to keep spying from the corners that still have a bit of light. And if we see that evening is falling, we should hurry up. And if you think it's necessary, it doesn't hurt to run either. It's worth clarifying that there haven't been any deaths attributed to the Jersey Devil, at least up until the writing of this report. However, there are those who say that there are things much worse than dying, like discovering that everything that was ever told is true. And that we are at the mercy of beasts that just by looking at them can drive us into the most terrifying madness.